Hi, and welcome to a special Comics from the Park. Devin and Jeff here, uh, going over the
More
information
diamond
released
nonsense.
recently for Diamond. They just announced what yesterday.
Oh, it's been real recently. It basically came out that they are able to operate until 1 April. If there is not a buyer in place by 1 April, they move from Chapter 11 to Chapter 7 into liquidation and they're out of business. Um, this is like some.
Big news.
Oh yeah, well not only that, but I mean there's some ramifications that really affect things that people even don't think about. I mean, yeah, everybody first thing they think about is, your small local comic book shops, your small distributors, stuff like that. But then you start getting into the secondary and tertiary type problems that are going to come out of this. For example, all these companies that have spent multiple thousands of dollars on their point of sale system through Diamond that does all the scanning and tracks
Oh,
everything.
right.
So what's going to happen with that? What's going to happen with the local comic shop locator? I mean that's another entity that I mean it's not even you couldn't even consider it profitable for that website alone because all it is pointing people toward comic shops, which makes them it's an advertising tool, so it's almost a liability.
It does help, but anymore we have Google.
Yeah.
Before in the early days of the internet, that was super helpful because we didn't have all the.
But to be fair, the nice thing about that locator, and this is what's always made the difference, and why you'll catch people coming to you from that versus Google time and time again, is your true collectors of comics, pop culture, things like that. They're going to know that if you're buying your stuff off Diamond, that you're pretty well established with getting, different variety of books, different variety of action figures, whatever, because this isn't just comic books that's coming out of this, and that gets into the yet another problem, because if these smaller stores don't already have some sort of secondary place they can go to for for their wholesale for Funko or for Hasbro or any of this stuff, all of a sudden their well is dried up until they can establish another distribution channel, and that pop culture stuff really makes up about half the sales in my place at least.
Right, and with the way pop culture changes so rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that like if you don't sell something and it sits on the shelf for more than a year, it's already in the back of someone's mind, and we've moved on to something new.
Yeah, you're in the position where you need to wait 10 years for it to come back as a retro item. But and so I mean it's just kind of it's a compounding issue that really starts coming to fruition. Is this going to affect your big stores? Absolutely not. The corporate comics that have been strangleholding this whole business for as long as I can remember are going to be in business, and they're going to use it to climb further up the ladder, because as these little mom and pop places fall, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to be the piranhas going into the freaking, into the hippo side, basically.
Well, and it's funny you should mention that because we were discussing what happens to Diamond at this point in time,
Mm-hmm.
and the likelihood of buying them out so that they keep the Diamond name is not great. It's not like there is a positive spin to being known as
No.
Diamond anymore.
Well,
Whereas, like with when Hostess went through bankruptcy, there was all sorts of nostalgia
mm-hmm.
and what have you. So of course, they had someone bought them out, kept the name, and it's now doing it.
Well, and the problem isn't so much that the name is good or bad, it's that people don't recognize the name itself. People recognize previews, they recognize PX exclusive. They don't recognize Diamond, though, which is the parent of both of those.
I don't know. I knew Diamond before I knew
Yeah.
PX.
Well, I'm just saying in general, because what the Diamond isn't what it says on the front of your previews that you get every month.
Right.
It's not pushing, so it's not, you're not going to get that nostalgia that comes with the actual company name. Therefore, if you have a
You don't have a
situation,
product with the name Diamond on it.
yeah,
You have products with these other
different other name, other pseudonyms for the yeah.
right. But
Um,
anyway, you were talking about piranha biting into the hippo.
yeah,
So we
basically.
discussed that if Diamond does move into Chapter 7, then that's when more than likely some other person is going to buy him out, pennies on the dollar, and then acquire a lot of the stuff for cheap.
Well, one of the first things that'll happen, it sounds like, is the comic books and the trade paperbacks and the actual print material that can be sold through kind of normal bookstore type stuff. Oliver and Barnes and Noble, I guess, will end up with all of that at liquidation, basically, and they'll be selling it off. That was the last I heard on that one. I don't know if that's changed anymore. I mean, obviously, they're going to liquidate all the way up till the end, through the smaller stores and stuff, but there's still going to be a massive overage, I'm sure, on April 1st if they have to close their doors. Um, the second side of this is going to be their actual distribution center itself, equipment, and for lack of a better way of putting it, just the overall setup of being able to distribute this style of product, whether it be, like I said, action figures, pop culture, comics, magazines, whatever. They've got different things in place for all of that. Um, this might be a place where hopefully we can see somebody come in, like you were saying, pick it up and kind of reshape it and run with the ball a little bit. Uh, what I'd love to see is, seven or eight maybe real small, small publishers. I'm talking like, oh, I don't know, Antarctic Press would be a good example. Isn't what was the one that did Enoch? I don't even think they ever distributed through Diamond, but I'm talking those smoke and gun comics.
Oh,
Those
good grief.
getting those. You get
Micro.
yeah, get a conglomeration of those micros together and publicly trade, open up a publicly traded company, buy out the distribution channel and fire it back up, except for make it more accessible to even a wider variety of the publishers. There's a possibility there, but at the same time, done wrong, you're going to be right back in the same boat again. Face planning, you're running into shipping issues, you're running into that, this and that. So it's hard to tell where we're going to end up.
Well, and I'm not trying to diss the small micro companies, but part of the thing is if they're that small,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want them to be spearheading something on this scale.
Well, and that's why I was saying that you have to look at this as a collective getting together to do it.
But
it
you
would be a
had
lot of
mentioned like
these.
Lunar possibly,
Well, they've never.
speculatively.
Well, that was more speculation on my part. I have read nothing about that, and the more that I think about it, it's like I just don't feel they have the capability. Number one, and number two, it would be hard for them to fire up a secondary distribution that far from their primary distribution.
That's fair to say. I was just
So
thinking if they were feeling ambitious and maybe ready to take the next step to
cover both
upgrading,
coasts,
or maybe if they relocate to a larger facility.
yeah, or cover both coasts with
Right.
two different facilities, one on each side. So
That because Penguin Random House being owned by the German media conglomerate, probably not as likely to step in and buy this.
see, and this is where this gets very, very interesting, in my opinion. Looking at it from a much smaller store like mine, and my monthly orders and things like that. Penguin Random House, they don't care. They're giving the same discount to everybody across the board, no matter what. You get the same shipping across the board, no matter what. It doesn't matter your volume, but it's because of what you're saying. They're conglomerate. They can, because they're making money hand over fist on some of these other guys. They're kind of letting me ride the wave of it and be able to get a little bit better deal. And I really appreciate that from Penguin in general. But at the same time, I don't think if you had a small company operating on the level of Diamond again, you're going to be able to ever match what Penguin is doing for the small shops right now.
Right.
I mean, the free shipping alone is huge. So,
Well, and all of that said, for those who are watching this who do shop at our store, just know that we are set up so that this is not as huge of a concern as it
yeah.
would be for other companies.
Well, and where it comes a concern for other companies is less on the comics because the comics have done a very good job getting a more diverse area that they can be distributed out of. For example, Lunar Penguin, so on, which works great. I am actually doing fairly good on all of that. The Lunar's been some learning curve, through the time, but I think I'm finally on a understanding with them that we're both villains and that's okay. Um, but no, it's more of a they definitely have to run their operations based on the volume sales, and or I'm not the big volume sales. They can't treat me the same way Penguin does because they're a much smaller company, and I get that. I understand. Um, but where this is going to hurt a lot of the places is going to be, like I said, that action figure stuff, your Funko Pops. Because if you do it through Funko itself, I mean, your order minimums are massive. It's something I looked into once, giggled for about 25 minutes profusely because there's no way I'm making that level in the near future. And found different channels at that point. This has been a few years ago looking for some alternatives just to cover some of the hard to get items.
Right.
Um, and but a lot of places really did a lot more of staying directly with Diamond for all of this. And one of the reasons they do that is if you order, from example, from Entertainment Earth, you have to order Costco style. It's like a 6-pack.
Right.
Whereas if you order from Diamond as a small mom and pop store, you can order one at a time. And you get a bulk discount at 6 or greater. So there's give and take on it. But a lot of your smaller places aren't going to be able to move over and start buying these case lots. They're going to be able to buy the specific figures that would be pre-ordered. And now if you have a customer come in and pre-order an item, you have to make a choice of, once you buy that case, can you move enough of the rest of them to at least break even with that pre-order from your customer?
Right.
So it does. It really changes the landscape for the smaller shops, and that's going to be the tough one moving forward, especially if that's primary source and has been for quite a while. My guess would be your older comic shop owners that have been doing it much longer than I have, because I've only been in business 4 years. I'm still fresh enough in it that I'm not
You're still
seeing.
green.
Well, I'm not shaking my cane right now. I'm kind of doing the,
Yeah.
what, I'll weather this for a minute and then eventually roll my face on hot coals. But there's going to be a lot of companies out there, like people that started their comic book shops like in their mid 20s, early 30s. They're in their mid 50s or so now, maybe early 60s. They've been doing it so long, and now this is going to like throw throw wrenches in all their cogs all over the place.
Well, and at
Um,
a certain point in time,
they're just going to
well,
shut down.
well, for the same reason why Diamond is struggling is the fact that they haven't adapted with the times and what have you. And that was
Hmm.
part of what led to all of this.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have these stores that, they haven't had to, change things up or, reanalyze things because they were going through Diamond and everything got taken care of. And
Well, one of
they've
two
grown
things, or one of
complacent.
three things will happen. They're going to weather it and stick with it until the day they die. They're going to go the guy on Mount Everest fashion with this one. You know what I'm talking about. The dude that refused, or not Mount Everest. Jeez, wow, I'm way all over the place here. St. Helens. The dude that wouldn't leave the site of St. Helens when it erupted.
Oh,
I will die in this cabin. Yep, yes, you will.
sure did.
Yeah, and there's people that do that, and that's probably I'll probably get crotchety enough eventually that I'll probably end up that way. You're gonna get and then the other two are the ones that decide, what, this isn't worth the hassle anymore. It's time to go ahead and shut the doors under my ruler, or my ownership, and you know, let it be what it is.
This is my ending point too.
Yeah, and so you got two options at that point, and it's either be gutting the hippo from all the other places coming in, or all the guys that sell at all the conventions and everything, or one of the employees getting together and trying to find a way to buy it out and continue it that way. The likelihood of the second scenario very small. I would say probably less than 10% of the stores that do close will continue. 90% will probably be gutted by your larger stores coming out of the cities and stuff like that.
Probably.
So, and that's just the reality of it at this point. Now, if somebody buys it, or if there is another distribution way that comes in, we're in a different ballgame at that point. They're going to be able to continue with a different company. Like with Lunar, for example, I was able to get a hold of them after basically Image gave Diamond the bird and said, you know what, we're not using you no more, and went over on the other side. My Image discount over there was horrible.
At Diamond.
No, at Lunar.
Lunar.
Yeah, because they've been distributing at Lunar for quite a while. It's just it hasn't been the sole distribution prior to this.
Like DC.
Yeah, like DC. Um, and so, but what they did, because of there was a change in the where the goalpost was at. Basically, they said, send us your most recent invoice, and for the next year we'll match whatever your Diamond discount is for Image specifically. And so it gives you a chance to.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to, get something behind you, but at the same time, I'm looking at the monthlies on that, and I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of Image, and I know that'll end up at dollar bin,
It gives you time to adjust, and at the same rate, they're starting to get more business with
Yeah,
everything, so they're going to get their new numbers, and, there'll be
start
some
figuring
meeting in
out.
the middle.
Yeah,
Probably more on their side than yours, but
yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. As far as my my setup is not going to affect me near as much, but I'm a very unique, very small percentage of the small shops out there. Um, the ones that actually depend on their store to, put food on the table at night, and to, pay their electrical bill and stuff like that. Um, this could be some rough times, depending what we have going forward, or I think we're going to see. Like I said, if we see Diamond close down and nothing come back, we're going to see pretty much a mass closing of your smaller stores across the country. And I don't, and it probably won't even stop there. It'll probably also start hitting into Europe and stuff like that, because Diamond UK will take some hits for the fact that America's side closed down, even though it's being sold. And will Diamond UK sell at that point if the main one shuts down? Because
but they're already bought out by.
No, they signed a letter of intent to buy Diamond
Right.
UK. If they see that the Diamond Comics distribution in general is a non-viable entity, whether it's in the United States or UK,
They weren't legally obligated.
yep, they can pull out that bad boy. So, this could affect, not just US, but, comics in pretty much anywhere. So,
But still not to the point where, no more comics ever. It's just going to be.
it's going to be a change.
It's going to be a change in the guard.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's going to probably be more of a stranglehold from the Marvels and the DCs and
Mm-hmm.
anything else. But again, weather the storm, and in a few years, I'm sure that once a new norm has been established, we're going to see little sprouts and pop-ups.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that's all we had for today. Just wanted to kind of update that we're not going anywhere, but be prepared for a bumpy ride.
Should be interesting. If anything new comes out, in the near future, as volatile as this has been, then we will be here giving you that news. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.